Africa is ditching the US dollar, allowing it to determine its own future. But why is this so significant? Well, part of the reason is because the US dollar is still the most powerful currency in the world. Globally, roughly half of all the money that's kept in banks is in the US dollar. And this allows the United States to engage in significant financial leverage, which I would frankly call financial warfare or financial colonialism. And one of the ways the United States engaged in this leverage was by pressuring global institutions that were supposedly neutral. One of these systems was a system called SWIFT. And what SWIFT did is it provided the infrastructure that allowed for different banks to send money across borders to each other. And for a long time, SWIFT was the global and universal standard allowing for this. But the United States used its financial power to pressure SWIFT to cancel its services in countries like Russia, Iran, and Belarus. This was a form of economic warfare against these countries, and their economies very quickly started to be affected. Well, since this happened, a lot of the world has now seen SWIFT no longer as a neutral system, but as a tool of the United States in terms of its imperialism and economic warfare. And now a lot of the world is trying to find new alternatives. One of these is the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, which I will call PAPS. What PAPS does, it allows for the more direct transfer of money across African countries. So what was it like before PAPS though? Well, two things. One was that money would have to be transferred when it went from one country to another. It would have to go through many financial institutions. This took time and cost a lot of money. But the second thing that was also involved, and that's critical for this video, is that there would usually be a currency that acted as an intermediary. And what that means is that rather than your one African currency getting directly converted into another African currency, usually this is what would happen. The money you sent would first be converted into US dollars, and then the US dollar would be converted into the currency for the destination you were sending the money. And what this meant is that African banks had to keep on to US dollars. But now that the system of PAPS works, where you just have your money directly converted, the US dollar is no longer necessary. Now, to be clear, most African banks are still keeping on to significant amounts of US dollar. But what the system of PAPS means is that if the United States was to ever sanction any of these African countries, they now have the infrastructure that would allow them to avoid a lot of the effects of these sanctions. It would be able to avoid using the US dollar and avoid using the system of SWIFT that has become a tool of the United States. This is Africa becoming independent, this is Africa resisting the United States imperialism, and this is Africa's future.
So they'll tell you Africa is unclean because of the color of our skin, and they'll say it's unsafe and all that, yet they troop in here every single day. In fact, when it's them, it's like going off the grid, luxury in the bushes, and when it's Africans, it's lack of development and poverty. When it's them, walking around barefoot is being grounded with the earth. When it's us, it's, oh my God, they've never seen shoes before. Oh my God, they don't have access to shoes, really. Now, when it's them, it's living eco-friendly and protecting the planet. And then when it's us, it's called lack of industrialization and being primitive. Now, when things are done their way, it is right. And when it's done the African way, it is considered backwards and primitive. Make it make sense. Yeah.
No, I mean, I feel like everyone should know this, but apartheid was basically a system of laws in South Africa, a system of laws that were designed to oppress people of color and all people of color. Apartheid made it illegal for black and white people to interact with one another, my parents included. You know, at the time when they were a couple, it was against the law. Me being born was against the law.
It's a crime for him to be here.
Yeah, my dad couldn't be on my birth certificate. My parents couldn't have me on the, like, you had to have a registry of all the people that lived in your house at the time. My grandmother couldn't have that in her house. But I think most importantly, the thing a lot of people don't realize is apartheid essentially was perfect racism. You know, like, I'm still learning about how perfect the system was in terms of, like, they went around the world. The government actually set up a commission to go around the world and study racism. And America was one of the places they came. They went to Australia, they went to the Netherlands, they came to America, and they were like, what is the racism here? How does the state oppress people of color? What can we use from the system to take home?
Do you support having a refugee admissions policy in this country that only admits white refugees?
Senator, I don't make that policy.
Well, but it's really important. But I think this is if I were to ask this question of virtually any nominee to be an ambassador prior to this panel, that would be an easy layup answer. No, of course, we don't support having a refugee policy where we only admit white people. So why can't you give me your personal view on that?
Because, Senator, I am here to serve America and to do what the president is asking me to do. I'll be following the executive order of February.
Would you support reinstituting laws in this country to only allow white people to vote?
Senator, I'm going to serve as ambassador to South Africa, and I'm going to focus on that.
You will not share your personal views on whether it is right or wrong to reinstitute discriminatory policies in this country to prevent black people from voting?
Senator, my personal views are irrelevant. I am serving here to do what the president is asking me to do in South Africa.
Well, that's just simply not true. The whole reason that you're appearing before this committee is because your personal views, your history is absolutely relevant to your fitness to serve. We wouldn't have this process if your personal views were not relevant. That is pretty stunning that you will not share your views not only on whether we should have a refugee admissions process that is race-based, but you won't share your personal views on whether we should reimpose discriminatory treatment against black Americans. That is absolutely relevant to your qualifications to serve, and your refusal to answer it, I hope, is something that every member of this committee will think about.
I want to leave one message, and that is that Africa's growth prospects for the next 40 years are extremely strong. Africa could achieve during the next 40-year period essentially what China achieved during the period from 1980 to 2020. We should aim for nothing less than 8 to 10% per year compound economic growth over the next 40 years, so that African poverty will be a thing of the past, and Africa will be solidly a middle-income region of the world, and many parts of Africa high income in the world by 2063. Economic development is a very high return activity if you do it right, and if you're lucky to avoid wars and calamities, so you have to stay peaceful. The returns to economic development of a poor region are just about the highest returns on investment of anything in the world. I'd rather invest in Ethiopia's future than in some high-tech company, because a high-tech company will not achieve compound interest returns of what Ethiopia can achieve of 15 to 20%. Sonia and I went to China the first time in 1981. At the time, there were no private vehicles on the streets anywhere. There was poverty. There were lots of bicycles already, but there was poverty. And we went in 1981, and we've gone almost every year since then. And you could see the rise of a completely modern, cutting-edge economy in that period. So that's what I believe Africa should aim for, and what Africa can achieve.
Welcome, family from Africa and across the world. And today, the awaited dreams today has turned to reality. The dreams today has turned to the reality. Today, the people who are coming out to admit the truth, saying speaking to a positivity about Africa and giving the evidence as how things are happening are not the only black people, but I presented you the video of the white people who are coming out to admit the truth about how Africa is growing, how Africa is changing, and how Africans are reacting and responding to the world. Because today, all that is happening is not what used to happen. Because many people, many years ago, the people who tried to come out and speak about African, the people who were firm believer and believed in African unity and revolution, they were all taken down. And at that time, no one was there to fight or to protect them. No one was there. to come out and address the whites or the Western systems and tell them that all that we are doing, we are not interested in it. We are not going to support, because it is not for building, but it's for destroying African continent.
Means it's a time where nobody need to force you to join a movement. This is no longer the normal Africa must unite talk. This is action time. And you can see behind, you can see everybody is into this movement. And at least for the first time in the history of Africa, you see Africans, youths coming out to make a statement, regardless of their tribe, regardless of their political parties, regardless of their background, their religious affiliation. And we are making a statement, together, doing something in common.
Today, we have every reason to say that Africa is growing, and not that far, Africa is going to overtake and maybe rule the world, because at this time, we are speaking about the black power, the black new world order. And this is not just speaking. It is not about the history, but we are talking about the facts and how things are happening. Today, we have seen how Africans are reacting. I presented a video just 2 days ago, and I was so surprised about the impression of how people are reacting, responding, and how people are commenting to that video, because it was a video of African artifacts, how they have been preserved in Europe, and how they have been how it have been how they have been bringing economy or driving a huge amount of economy in that country. Because when we speak about the Europe and America and all the Westerners falling while Africa is rising, we don't only speak about them being expelled in Africa. We don't only speak about how they have been denied to African resources, but there is a lot of things today that is making these people that to be seen that like they're falling, because when we put aside all these minerals, we have the artifacts, we have the heritage that were stolen here in Africa a long time ago. And all these things that were stolen here, many Africans forgot about them. They forgot anything or the history about their artifacts, about their heritage, about their originality. But there are some people who at this time are still enjoying, are still benefiting and gaining from these artifacts. So today, all these people who have the Africans who are in diaspora, they are the people today who have come to awaken Africans and try to remember them, to remind them that you are still asleep, because all that is making you or can make us to be proud, all that is making us to feel like we this is our originality and we are the true Africans, and this is what can make us to feel like Africans, the black people, has been preserved in other people's land, has been preserved in other people's countries. They are on displays, on mirrors, in attracting people across the world to go and pay. They have become like the trophies. The trophies to be seen by people by paying thousands and millions of dollars. So today, we have every reason to say that Africa is rising. It's true. Africa is rising, and not just rising, but it's turning to something that the world never expected. We said earlier that the world have to pay attention to Africa, because all that is coming out of Africa, all that is coming out of Africa is not something that the world expected. Because at this time, not only the youth, but the entire African continent is turning to something else. Today, we are so surprised to see how things are happening. The Americans today themselves, the white Americans, they come out and say that they can no longer control Africans anymore. Africans are out of control. They are waking up. They are not begging to go and make a decision. They are today not responding to Western policies. They are today not responding to the white systems. But today they are fighting to make sure that they overcome and eliminate anything that comes out of Africa. We are fighting to cut off all these democracies. We are trying to fight to overcome or go against all their agreements that they had before by our ancestors, by the people who are there before, who are leading this great continent. So today, Africa is not going to the battlefield. We are not being accompanied by heavy weapons. We are not going to bomb the Western countries. But because of the history, because of the truth that was barren for many years, because of the power and strength from our African youth, the world is responding. They are coming with fear. They're coming with honor, because they know that the people from that continent, today they are awake and they're not ready to be manipulated. They're not ready to be dictated or to be told what to do, because at this time we know, we as the African youth, we have gone through the history, and today we are doing things that for those people who lived ancient days, they were denied to do such things. They were denied their rights, their freedom. They begged for justice, but the world kept blind to their request. Today, all the people who are buried, who are assassinated, they were only fighting for this great continent. They were fighting for freedom and equality and unity. They were fighting for truth. But the world never responded. The world never responded. At this time, all that we are watching happening, this is something that was expected to be to be done many years ago. But because the people who lived those days were never given opportunity, chances, and access to do what it could have helped the continent. That's why today, we as Africans and the African youths are coming out boldly, saying that they are ready to die, but die fighting for this great continent, die fighting for the future of the coming generation. Because all these people who have been coming here to manipulate and exploit Africa, all that they have been taking out of Africa, they have been taking this to go and build their own countries, to build their own future for their coming generation, while the future of the coming generation of Africa has no future, have no bright future. We are living by imagination. We are living not knowing how tomorrow will come. We are living still not knowing or being sure if tomorrow will wake up in our own home, in our own countries, in our own continent, because this continent, there are some people, many people who are still fighting, and they are thinking of how they can wake up and capture, control everything that we are sitting on top. Because all that we are having today in Africa, the one that our people who lived many years ago never know the worth of it, never know how worth it was, and allow some people to come and access and know how worth it was. That's when the problem started, because at this time, when the Africans came to realize the importance of everything that was sitting in the top in their soils, all these golds, minerals, diamonds, uranium, the people who have already tasted it were not ready to leave it, were not ready to surrender and give and return back to the people who are concerned. That's why today, many years, Africa has been in chaos, in violence, in crisis, in terrorism, because the people who came to find the importance of what we are having were not ready to allow to leave it. That's why they have been funding terrorism. That's why they have been funding, make sure, and causing all these problems to make sure that Africa not settle in peace, so that we keep on fighting. As we keep on fighting, they come in the name of helping. But through that process, they continue taking everything that we are having, leaving African continent in a poorest situation. And at the same time, they go outside there, they expose Africa in a negative way. They call us poor, dirty. But at the same time, they keep on coming, taking all that can make us to be the best people, to make us that we can be as clean as they want us to be. So today, this is not a story, but this is a reality. That's why I started by saying that the dreams have turned into reality. And everything that the world never expected that maybe it can happen or it can come out of Africa. Today, I've ever tried to show you or to present you some videos of African youths and how they are coming out boldly with different and amazing inventions whereby they're coming out with the invention that they're not using they're not using laboratories. They're not using any. But they're coming out with some things that you cannot imagine how they're coming out with. You cannot imagine where are they getting these ideas. We have African kids today who are coming out with amazing talents, crazy things that the world never experienced, never expected. So at this time, what I can say is that it is a time that it was awaited. Our freedom fighters our ancestors expected this moment of time. They died believing that this generation will come to impress them. They died believing that this generation will come to achieve their dreams and their agendas. They died believing that this generation will come to make all or to accomplish their missions and their visions, and that is what is happening today. Because Africans are not going to battle on the battlefield to fight. We are not going with the guns and bombs to fight against the Westerners, but we are just winning. They're just failing. They're just collapsing, and Africans are rising every day. We are watching how Americans are flogging here in Africa because they believe that this is the best time that they were prophesied. It was prophesied that such things will come to happen. And that's why today we see a great change is happening, and the world is so in panic as how Africa is doing these great things. And I think I'll not take much of your time, because I hope that you've enjoyed this clip, this video, and if so, kindly consider subscribing, sharing, join my membership so that we can keep on moving together, because this is a time that we are supposed to do something that the world never expected. And until next time we come to the same, thank you very much for being here and supporting each and every day. I appreciate support because you are doing great. And until next episode, let's meet on the comment section and really know what are your views concerning this video that I presented to you. Until next time, may you be blessed wherever you are watching from. I appreciate and love you very much.